Dez going to come back to the Cowboys? No, he's not. It's fake news. Deion Sanders, who I will forever love because I loved him growing up as a child, thinks that the Cowboys should try and bring back Deion bring back Dez, and that Dez could still help the Cowboys, and he'd be motivated after his release to play well, which I agree with. But Dez does not want to play well for the Cowboys. He wants to play well against the Cowboys. Well, I agree the Cowboys have a bad, on-paper, wide receiving core. Look, the bridge between Dez and the Cowboys was burnt. Actually, it wasn't just burnt. They reenacted President Reagan's Star Wars initiative, and they blew it up from space. The bridge is no longer there for the Cowboys and Dez Bryant. He's not going to come back. I will be absolutely stunned in every way imaginable. I see no scenario in which it happens for Dez Bryant. They're going to try and roll with Cole Beasley, Allen Hurns, Michael Gallup, and maybe T.O. We'll talk more about him later on in the show. In the meantime, Dez will sign with a new team. I'd bet money on one of these 5 teams, especially if one of those guys one of those key players have another injury. The Bills need more help at wide receiver. You know Dez wants to play for the Giants as well. The Patriots, by the way, just may have lost Julian Edelman for 4 games, so keep an eye on that potential spot. Of course, I do want to know from you, would you want Dez back on the Cowboys? Now, I said from the beginning the Cowboys should not cut Dez Bryant, but now that it's been done, I think it's just time to move on. It doesn't make sense for either party to get back together. It'd kind of be like going back to the girlfriend who cheated on you. It's just not going to go over well for either side. All right, next up on the rumors, speaking of girlfriends that cheated on you, Terrell Owens kind of falls in that same category, I think. He says he can play for the Cowboys, so could he go to the Cowboys? No, it's this one's fake news. T.O.'s kind of gone a little bit off the deep end, I think. He says he can still play in the NFL. He was asked if he would play for the Cowboys, could he catch 30 or 40 balls, and he said absolutely. He said, I'd be fine to go back. This is an even more extreme example of Dez Bryant because T.O. has spent all offseason absolutely tearing in Jason Garrett. And oh, by the way, he's 44 years old. I know he's in great shape, but T.O. can't contribute to an NFL roster. I would rather take any receiver on the Cowboys right now than Terrell Owens. I have zero interest in that one. Next up, did Rico Gathers bulk up in the offseason? We're going to give this one 4 stars. Rico has added a little bit of weight to him, which helps explain why he looked maybe just a little bit slower early on during OTAs. He was at 265 last year, designed to help him move faster. He is now up to 282, his playing weight while at Baylor, and Rico says this is all designed to help him become a better blocker. And I like to hear that because if Rico's going to make this roster, he's going to have to be a better blocker. It's the only way he's going to be able to make it right now. And one note on Rico here before we get into some 53-man roster projections later on in the show. He is still working with the 4th team among tight ends. He's 4th on that depth chart. It's not a promising sign for his chances of making the roster going forward. All right, 3 rumors down. And again, folks, go ahead and subscribe or go ahead and check out stayguild.com. Visit promo code ChatSports for 15% off your next stay. I think it's kind of like a luxury Airbnb. We're going to get to some more notes on David Irving, but first, it was from our sponsor, The Gift. Once again, folks, that's stayguild.com, promo code ChatSports for 15% off your stay. As for David Irving, are the Cowboys frustrated with him? I do think so, and this is reading between the lines of what Rod Marinelli has had to say about David Irving as of late, and I think this is what's going on here. So Marinelli was asked if he thought it would be a good idea for Irving to show up during mandatory minicamp, which, I guess kind of a loaded question. He says, I think so. That might be a good idea. That would help. And then on top of that, Marinelli has said that he is trying to help provide some guidance for David Irving. He said it's about man building. You give him guidance and go, but the man has got to grab it and go. Marinelli says he's talking to Irving in a man-to-man kind of thing. So I know that David Irving has a lot going on in his personal life. The Cowboys said he was out of shape. I think all the outfield stuff with the false accusations of domestic violence, with gaining custody of his daughter, has weighed a lot on Irving, and understandably so. And I think he's just been a little bit slow to get back on track into the David Irving we know and love on the field. But I do think the Cowboys, even if it's not exactly a fair viewpoint, are getting just a little bit frustrated because he wasn't really there at OTAs. On the good side of things, though, is Irving going to be back for minicamp? I'm going to give this one 3 stars. Again, it seems pretty likely, even though Jason Garrett has said He's not sure if Irving will be there. Irving did show up after OTAs ended for an individual workout on Wednesday, a promising sign for Irving on that end. And there was the report from Mike Fisher that Irving will be there at minicamp. Don't know how much he's going to do. Maybe he's still kind of held out a little bit, but he's at least going to be there. And that's been the issue, I think, for the Cowboys, is that they know Irving has a lot going on, but he still hasn't been in the facility the way that they want him to be. That's not always the most fair viewpoint, but the NFL and the Cowboys among them, they want you to be committed to your team 110%, nothing else going on outside of that. So I think Irving's going to be okay, but just keep an eye on it. In terms of some good news on the defensive line, some really good news, Jihad Ward has looked really good during OTAs. 4 stars on this one. Brian Broaddus called him the most impressive player of anyone on the Cowboys. That's a lot of high praise, and Ward has benefited in a big, big way from David Irving's absence and Malik Collins' injury. Ward has come in and immediately started working with the first team during OTAs. I think he's going to be a roster lock this year based on the way he's fared in OTAs. We'll get into my full projections later on in the show. But Ward doing this is a very promising sign. The talent has always been there. A former second-round pick. The Cowboys give up Ryan Switzer to get him, and he's worked at both the 3 technique and the 1 technique spot during OTAs. If you're looking for a comp, Ward kind of does fit into that David Irving mold. You know, didn't have the best college career because he was a great athlete, but didn't quite perform in that way, and has underachieved early on in his NFL career, but the athletic upside has always been there. If there is any coach that's going to get the most out of Jihad Ward, it's going to be Rod Marinelli. Folks, if you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, give us a subscribe at our new Cowboys-only YouTube channel, chatsports.com/CowboysTV. It'll take you right into the page. If you're watching on our main Chat Sports channel, go there. All of our Cowboys content will be there exclusively in just a couple of weeks here. We're going to kind of do a little slow transition there, but chatsports.com/CowboysTV, the best Cowboys coverage you'll find on YouTube. All right, 3 rumors left. Is Martin going to do very little at minicamp? I'll give this one 3 stars. Again, the report from Mike Fisher is that Zack Martin will be at the Cowboys facility during minicamp, but that Martin might not do much, if any, work on the field. So it's kind of a little mini agreement before they get their contract done. Martin shows up. He doesn't get fined, but he doesn't do a whole lot of work to avoid the injury. We continue to wait on that contract extension for Zack Martin. I am waiting for it. I still don't really know what's taking so long. This should not be a long ordeal. Give him $13.5 million a year over 5 years. There we go. Contract settled, right? I know there's the guaranteed money and all the other kind of stuff involved in there, but this should be done by now. If it's not done before training camp, I'm actually going to be really concerned. But as of right now, I'm not panicking. But this should be done sooner rather than later if I'm the Cowboys and Zack Martin. Back to defense now. Is Kam Kelly moving to safety? This one does seem pretty likely. Brian Broaddus mentioned it very recently that the Cowboys and putting Kam Kelly at cornerback seems to be over. Now, he could go back to corner if that's what the Cowboys want to do, but he was working with at safety during the last part of OTAs, and I actually very much like this move. I think that Kam Kelly is best as a safety. He played both at San Diego State, and so the Cowboys were trying to make him into Richard Sherman, but I think he's going to be a better safety player. That's what he was at San Diego State. I think he'd be a better fit on that, and so we'll see what happens there. But I think Kam Kelly, of all the UDFAs, has a very good chance at making the Cowboys roster. One last rumor for you guys. Could Mike White be the backup quarterback? I'm going to continue to give this one 2 stars. It's a possibility, but he's not the front runner at this time. That remains Cooper Rush. But White is pushing very hard for that role. And remember, the Cowboys, based on where they spent some draft capital, liked Mike White more than they liked Cooper Rush. Now, White has still a bit of an issue of holding on to the ball too long, trying to wait to the last second to make the right throw, wait for someone else to come open instead of just taking the yards that are available there. But Jason Garrett said White is getting better and better, and I think that is a very positive sign for the Cowboys. And I'd rather have 3 quarterbacks on the roster than just 2, because if you got 2 young quarterbacks behind Dak, I think that sets up well for the future, and even if you want to try and trade somebody later. But folks, let me know who you think should be the Cowboys' backup quarterback. Give me a like for Cooper Rush. Give me a heart for Mike White. I will wait and see until the preseason is over to see where those 2 are going. Rush looked great last year, but the Cowboys really do like Mike White. So keep an eye on that lesser but important training camp battle.